Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Partnership for Supply Chain Management, I'd like to welcome you to this lunch event and panel discussion. My name is David Jamieson. I'm the Deputy Director for Global Partnerships at the Partnership for Supply Chain Management. My colleague, Gordon Comstock, who will introduce himself in a few moments, will actually manage the panel discussion. But I wanted to just take a couple of moments to set the problem statement as we see it in terms of how will the supply chain respond to the 90-90-90 targets. Those targets are, of course, quite complex. There are many facets to them, but one thing we do know, if we do not get the diagnostics and the drugs to the point of care for patients, then we will not reach anything on those targets. So our key question really is, can the supply chain meet 90-90-90? I'm assuming you all know 90-90-90, so I'm not going to go into that. But what we want to do today is to unpack some of the different challenges that face each of those 90s. And it is different for each of the 90s in our view. We will also explore some common themes that apply to each 90. And for that, we've got a nicely varied panel, I believe, representing manufacturers, WHO and UNAIDS, and the logistics chain. So I think it covers much of what we need to do. What we were not planning to do today is to get into a deep discussion about financing it. Obviously, funding is important, but it's too big a tale for us to tackle. We're going to stick to the technical challenges within the supply chain. For the first 90, it's very much established technology. The supplies are there, the capacity has always responded well, and we believe is still there. From a supply chain management point of view, there is a bit of concern about the dominance of one or two of the tests, and if there was a challenge in supply of determine or one of the other major tests, that could cause quite significant disruption. But reaching the goal demands getting testing done in some very new and different places. Self-testing, what would that mean in terms of the distribution? So it's much of the challenge there is about a distribution and a supply chain element. Treatment, of course, is the big one, essentially doubling the number of people on treatment, doubling the number of drugs, regular supply, how do we ensure that? And it's a moving target. If we don't get the new infections under control, and they're not coming under control, so the 90% target is growing by 2 million per day, or 90% per year. So what is needed to meet that? To date, the manufacturing base has been superb in expanding and meeting the challenges, and I believe they could continue to do so. But what is needed to enable them to do that? What more information, support, reassurance do they need from those of us in implementing these programs? Data, I think, is going to be essential, and I'm sure that will be discussed in the panel. The final 90, again, I believe that the capacity is there. We have a lot of new technology. This is an area where there is technical innovation happening almost by the month. And that's going to demand a whole new network of us to get the to conduct those viral load tests, and be interesting to hear what the panel think about that. Lastly, then, the two common themes that I'll mention, there are others, but data visibility, enabling accurate forecasting, a transparency of activity and pricing, and what are we doing? Highly successful supply chains are driven by data. We are still in the dark on some of our data. And private sector usage. There's a huge untapped potential in the private sector within the countries that we work, many of the countries in which we work. And we need to think about how we tap that potential, what innovation is needed. Do we dare to innovate and bring in the private sector? And in fact, if we don't dare to innovate in that way, we probably will not meet these targets.